The one consistent reality for most local churches is that ministry to men is very inconsistent. It usually gets started because one man, sometimes two, they become very passionate about the need to reach men. They start putting all kinds of plans together, they run hard, and they work hard to build the men in their church and in their community. And then something happens. Maybe it's a crisis of some kind. Maybe they get tired or they get frustrated at the lack of response. Maybe they sense God leading them to some other area of ministry and service. Whatever that something is, the efforts to minister to men almost always come to a screeching halt in the church. And the biggest reason that this happens is because there's not a discipline to build something that is going to be sustainable. The passion and energy that these men have is amazing, but it's like trying to build a house without putting the foundation in first. The most critical element in preventing the start-stop roller coaster of ministry to men is the building of your team. When men try to do it alone, they're setting themselves up for failure, and they're setting their church up for failure as well. If you're one of those guys and you're trying to do it alone, I applaud you and appreciate you, but I want to challenge you as well to take as much time as you need to personally invest in the lives of some other men one-on-one. Get to know them, pray for them, challenge them to a cause that's greater than themselves, and eventually invite them, call them to join you in a plan to help strengthen every man in your church and community. Once you start to build your team and identify those men, you need to consider the different strengths and passions that these men have. The Blueprint framework is going to require men who have different types of skills serving on your team. For example, you will need someone who loves to organize the logistics of events to be your events leader. The follow-up paths in Blueprint after each event also require different types of men. Look for a relational man who loves to teach and study the Bible to lead the man-to-man follow-up activities. There's other men who love to be hands-on in serving others, and this type of man is what you really need for the Men in Action follow-up path. You need to spend some time praying for God to bring the right men along, and then you need to call those men to get involved. As you build your team, it's critical that each man begin to identify another man who can also get involved in the team, especially trying to reach younger men. At the very beginning, begin thinking about who's going to replace you. Those men may not want a leadership position immediately, but they might be willing to get involved in some way with your team. And what this will do is create a consistent process that's going to help the manpower of your team outlast you. It will help your church get off the roller coaster of starting and stopping ministry to men. When you have finally identified at least 3 men who are on your leadership team, then you're ready to start going forward with the overall Blueprint framework for your church. But do not start until you have found these men. You will find some recommended job descriptions for each team member in the Blueprint workbook that you received during the training. Until you have these men, be patient. Pray for God to raise them up and spend your time personally investing in men's lives one-on-one.